I recently finished my MiterStation. I'm very happy with it. It turned out okay. There are still a lot of things that I need to do to it, like staining, dust shields, and a vacuum system. But I wanted to focus on the fence and get that over with. This episode will be about how I built the fence and built the stop block and installed the T-Track. Speaking of T-Track, I'm very happy with this T-Track. It's by a company called ZokMok Tools. It has a finely sanded blue anodized tint to it. It also has the ability to flex. The flex comes in handy if you needed to adjust your fence on one side. You can move it slightly forward or slightly back without compromising durability or functionality. The other thing that I love about this T-Track is that it is made of aluminum grade 6063. So I'm very happy with that. I'm using a standard T-bolt, washer, and nut. The plate that I'm using, I just cut in half. It's from my table saw. It's acrylic plastic. I have some acrylic paint that I use to mark the gauge. The stop block was made out of walnut. This is a beautiful wood. I'm very happy with how it looks, and I love the smell of it as well. And you'll see how I made this. I do hope that this episode will be helpful to you. Please let me know if you enjoyed it by giving it a thumbs up. Let's get started. So I started out with a test piece to make sure I have the right size to fit underneath the trim, and it looked good. I went over to the table saw to make the actual cut for the fence. I always start out by marking where the blade is so that I could put some blue tape to prevent the veneer on the plywood from splintering. I then took it to my router table with a 3/4 inch straight bit to cut a thin 1/8 of an inch dado out for the adhesive tape. It looks good. I just need to take it over and see if it's going in too far, and it looks like it's fine. I'm now setting up my straight bit to cut just a hair over the T-Track. The cut looked clean, and now I'm just going to clean up those little fuzzies. I'm now measuring for the fence size. I need to account for the 3/4 inch trim that I'm going to do. So the fence construction is complete. I routed and sanded and cut to size. I will now be working on the trim to kind of pretty it up. Let's continue. I am now taking some measurements to get the miters correct. The wood that I'm using is some ash that was given to me by a local business. Now it's time to give a little sanding so that I could put some stain on it. The stain was off camera, but now I'm attaching the trim to the fence. I'm now getting some pocket holes on the fence so that I could secure it to the top of the surface. You're probably wondering how I'm going to slide the stop block on there. Don't worry, this is where I cut out the groove past the trim. I was concerned with blowouts, so I used a couple of pieces of wood to prevent that. It looks okay. This T-Track is superior to any other T-Track that I've used. It installs very easily, and I like the flexibility of it too. I am now just sizing up the end piece that was a little short. Surprisingly enough, that the grade of aluminum is 6063, it still cuts pretty easily. I'm just scoring this out with a razor blade. Looks good. Looks like the trim aligned really well. I'm putting 2 longer screws on this side that go into the cabinet itself to secure the fence. Now I just need to attach all the screws to the fence. The other side's going to be secured with the correct screws. Now I'm just sizing it up before the trim at the end of the tape with a piece of wood, and then I'll measure that out to give me the starting point on the tape. Using a razor blade to score the tape so that I could see it. Particular tape is made by FastCap and it has the 1/16 of an inch system on it, which matches my other tape measure. I was a little concerned about this adhesive, but it worked out just fine. I think recessing the tape into the fence is a good idea to prevent any interference from the stop block. So now I'm testing the measurement with the blade. Perfect. So far, so good. So we've completed the fence. It looks great. I'm very happy with it. The adhesive I was a little concerned with, but it's fine. It's sticking just fine. This is aluminum, so it's not going to get damaged anytime soon. I'm happy with that. The T-track, beautiful. It installed without problems. It's nice and straight. I will say that the packaging that they used was superior, so there's no way that it actually could bend or anything like that. I want to work on the stop blocks now. The tape is aligned to the blade, but when you're dealing with stop blocks, it's a little tricky. I'm excited about the stop blocks because they're going to be made of walnut, and I love the species black walnut. I love the smell of it. I love the look of it. So I'm excited. I imagine they're going to be beautiful. So let's get started. This black walnut is beautiful. It's got like a tiger print on it. I'm just squaring up the end there. Now I'm measuring exactly 6 inches across so that I can cut that in half. Finding the center point so that I can go to the table saw and cut it in half. And I will cut those in half and glue them together to make 2 stop blocks. Some light sanding. And now for the glue up. Can't have too many clamps. Glue is now dry. I'm going to go ahead and check it out and do a little bit more sanding. This Rockler quick release vise has been really handy. I really like it. Now drilling out the hole for the T-bolt. Good thing about having a stop on your drill press fence is that you have the same hole every time. Now I'm sizing up the spline that will ride in the T-track. Almost there. Now I'm just sizing up the dado groove for the spline. I'm going to go ahead and just keep edging over until I got the right fit. Cutting it to the size of the stop block. Now I'm going to take a Forstner bit and drill out a hole for the T-bolt's head. Glue the splines up. Ended up being a nice tight fit. The more glue you clean up, the less sanding you have to do.
Now that the glue is dried, I'm going to go ahead and cut the same hole in the same position, but not as deep, for the head of the T-bolt. This is an old Atlas drill press from the 40s. Going to go ahead and get a standard T-bolt, a washer, and a nut. And it does tighten really well. Went ahead and took off the gauge from my saw and cut it in half, and using a red marker here, but didn't stay very well. Ended up using a black acrylic paint. Now I'm going to go ahead and route a groove on the shoulder so that it will complement the gauge. Sized up a 17-inch cut, locked it in, and did a test cut, and it was dead accurate.
So we're at that point where we're finished with our current fence system, stop block system. I'm very happy with the way everything turned out. The stop blocks are beautiful, as I imagine. Black walnut is beautiful. They work just fine. I like how the gauge from the other table saw fence worked. I ended up using a black acrylic pin instead of the red marker. It just rubbed right off. This acrylic pin sticks to the plastic, which is what it's for, and I could see it very clearly, and it's very accurate. I did a test cut, as you saw, and it works fine. In the future, I may change this up a little bit, but for now it works, and it locks just fine, very strong. It is about a 1/8 of an inch above the surface of the table, so that works well too, and it slides just fine. The MiterStation isn't complete yet. I still have a little bit more to do, but this concludes this episode. I do hope you enjoyed it. I do hope that you learned something through my journey of building the fence system. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day.